Welcome to the Aliya Matheson Show. I'm your host, Aliya Matheson. We're here every Wednesday at 6 p.m. Central Time. And today I wanted to do something a little bit different. Today I wanted to allow y'all to ask me any question you want about anything. And y'all came through. You sent a bunch of questions, so I'm going to spend today answering those questions. So prepare yourself, get your popcorn and your soda or whatever it is you crunchy people drink these days. And we're going to do this Q&A. The first question we have is...
Wait. Can I do the first? Can I ask you the first question?
You want to ask me the first question?
Yeah, I mean, I just feel like, I'm your husband and all, and I should probably be able to ask the first one.
Okay. Go for it.
Okay. The question is...
This is coming from you. You're not...
This is live, everybody. She has not practiced for this question. This is a very hard question, so I hope you're ready for this.
Okay, what do you want to know?
Okay. So, a little backstory. I made Aliya chop her hair. You can probably scroll her Instagram to find her bald head. But I made her cut her hair off. And my question is, do you regret it? Or is it okay that I shaved your head bald? Do you hold anything against me?
For those of you who are super confused right now, I used to straighten my hair all the time. And Brian wanted my hair like this. And I said, it's not going to be like that because anytime I'd wash it, it'd go back to being this like sad limp curl. So I said, the only way that you're going to get this back is if I completely shave my head. And so that's what happened. Like, what was it? A couple weeks after we got married. And no, I don't regret it. Although I looked very, very ugly for about a solid 6 months.
Okay. So you don't hate me?
No, I don't hate you. I like my hair now. I appreciate that I don't have to hide from the rain every time I go outside, because when you have when you have straightened hair, these are for the people who don't understand black hair. When you have straightened hair and you get it wet, it goes back to being curly. So we would be on dates and I'd have my straight hair, and if it would start raining, I'd be like screaming, like hiding.
Oh, she would freak out like a cat, like she didn't want to go outside or... Like I need something to cover my hair. I can't go outside.
I'd have a big jacket with me all the time just in case, Y'all white people can't relate with this, but...
It's getting pretty long too. You almost need to, I don't know, are you going to grow it out super long or are you going to keep it?
My hair's always been super long. It's always been at like my hip. So I'm definitely going to grow it out.
We'll have to change your logo when it grows out then.
I know. I was just thinking that the other day. I guess she'll just add some hair. Okay, time to get into the questions. So some of these are serious questions, others are just super random. The first question of the day is, what is the best part of being a mom and also the most difficult? So the best part of being a mom is, I would say, Judah's little laugh and smile. Like when he thinks things are funny and he just has the cutest little laugh and he's so sweet. And I just love his little personality that's coming out. Feel like the first year of being a mom is just like trying to keep them alive and survival mode. But now I'm getting to like enjoy his personality, and he's really funny and kind of a clown. I wonder where he gets it from.
Oh.
So the most difficult part of being a mom is feeling like my body isn't my own body. He's just like always attached to me. Whether he's nursing or he just wants to be held, he's just like constantly on me all day, every day, and all night, every night. So I remember the days where I used to just walk around and be free and there was no person hanging on me, or me holding a 25-pound weight, it gets tiring sometimes. So that's one of the most difficult things. Also trying to come up with food for him to eat all the time, because I try and eat pretty clean here. So I'm constantly preparing and making meals, but also having to make him food that he can eat too, on top of Brian's meals and my meals and everything else. That gets exhausting. And also, of course, the not sleeping part. So yeah, that would be the most difficult thing, I would say. Next question. Do you think that people should go through a firearms training course before they buy a firearm? That's a tough one. According to the Constitution, no. you shall not infringe on guns. That's pretty black and white. I think everyone should be able to have access to guns. Do I think that they should learn how to use them? Absolutely. I don't think it should be required before you can buy a firearm, though. I just think that people should learn safe usage of firearms in general for their own safety, not so that they can buy a gun. I'm a very strict constitutionalist, so I believe that everybody has the right to own a gun, no matter who they are. And if we all own guns, like the bad guys are going to get guns anyways, right? Like most people who do shootings and that stuff, they got access to a gun through the black market, or they illegally had the gun in the first place, or they weren't even supposed to have the gun, or it was their parents' gun, or, you know, all kinds of other things. I mean, if you're going to get a gun and you're a bad guy, you're going to get it regardless of the law. So I don't know if y'all know this, but criminals don't follow the law. That's kind of what makes them criminals. So no, I don't think regular citizens or anybody should have to go through firearms training, but do learn some stuff before you just take a gun out, because you might hurt yourself. So I hope that answers your question. Favorite candy? I would say I'm going to go with Reese's Cups. A big old Reese's Cup. Yeah. Are you with child?
Bomb, bomb, bomb.
Guess we'll be finding out in the next few days when I'm supposed to get my period.
Oh, TMI.
I know. Yes. I don't think I'm with child. I hope not. Let's pray that I am not with child, because I'm not ready. I still haven't slept through the night yet. I'm not sleeping through the night. So yeah, let's pray that that's not the case, y'all.
It's okay, babe. If we have another one, I'll stay up all night.
Oh, sure you will. What's the 2030 agenda and the significance of it?
Didn't we do a video on this?
I know. Okay, so you need to go to my first episode of the Aliya Matheson Show and watch it, because it's all about the 2030 agenda, and it's very significant. So this question has an entire episode dedicated to it. So that's just for you. Go watch that episode. I'm sure you'll really, really enjoy it. Next question. What is your motivation to do what you do and to speak the way you speak fearlessly? Oh, that's sweet. So my motivation is I don't want to live in a communist country and I don't want my son to live in a communist country. So that's why I speak out on political issues. I'm also a very black and white, justice-oriented person. So I believe in fighting for the oppressed and the people who can't speak for themselves. I am not afraid of confrontation. I have a very bold personality. So it doesn't take a lot for me to speak. And for other people, they have anxiety or they deal with other issues, and it's very difficult for them to speak on controversial topics. So because I'm not afraid of controversy and I'm not intimidated by intense conversation, I think that it's my duty to speak out because I'm capable of doing it. I know better and I want to see justice enacted. So that's why I speak on what I do.
How do you know what you're saying is right?
Because I'm saying it. Just kidding. No, so it depends on what topic.
I mean, like you just said, you're fearless for it all. So how do you know you're getting behind the right things?
So I'm very fact oriented. So I don't speak about things I don't know a lot about. And if I don't know a lot about a subject, then I will defer to people who do know a lot about that subject. And I tend not to make blanket statements on things that aren't absolute facts. So when it comes to, for instance, conspiracy theories, I will distinguish between something that's actually a theory, like something that's a conspiracy theory, versus something that's just an actual fact. I think it's important to do that. I also think it's important to mention when it's my opinion versus actual fact. Certain things are a fact. For instance, vaccine companies aren't liable for injury. That's a fact. It is my opinion that vaccines don't work. They might actually have some sort of short-term, use. Like they might actually work short-term in terms of giving people immunity to certain things. But for me personally, it's my opinion that they don't work and that the science behind it doesn't actually work. It is an absolute fact that vaccine manufacturers are not liable. So that's kind of, if that answers your question, Brian.
It does. Thank you for explaining that.
Sure. Next question. Did you grow up in a conservative? Oh, sorry. Did you grow up conservative / Christian? If not, how did the change happen? So I definitely grew up conservative and Christian. Both my parents are first generation Christians. My mom's family's Jewish. My dad's family's Catholics. So we're the first Protestant Christians in our family. And my parents, they are very wise, and they gave us a lot of wisdom and biblical doctrine, and they raised us with conservative values. It's kind of hard to be a Christian, not be a conservative, because conservative values are based in Christianity. So, and I know that might trigger some people who are Biden supporters and Christian, but it just is what it is. I mean, the fundamental Christian values that we see in the Constitution are based in the Christian faith. So I always grew up conservative, but I was also very much a skeptic and a critic. So I would go onto like platforms and like debate atheists and stuff just to see if what I believed was true held true, even under attack. And I'm a firm believer in exposing ideas to anybody and letting them try and shred them apart, because if an idea is true, it will always hold to be true regardless of who's attacking it. So all of my ideas, my Christian beliefs, I kind of let them go out into the world, and I expose them to a lot of different backgrounds, and I let people critique it, and then I would go and research, and so it kind of confirmed in my head that this was my belief and not just my parents' belief. As far as conservative values, if you have the Christianity part, that the conservativeness just kind of comes along, because again, conservative values are just really Christian values.
Can everybody believe that Aliya used her free time to go on forums and debate with atheists? Like, that's shocking, right? Like, whoa. She did that? No.
Yeah, I was an interesting kid. I would read a lot of interesting philosophy books. Like I loved C.S. Lewis. Like Mere Christianity is one of my favorite books. I loved listening to dissenting voices. And in certain areas, I wasn't super conservative. Like I mentioned in my past video, I was for BLM at a point in my life, and I don't necessarily agree with every conservative viewpoint when it comes to issues in the Black community, but for majority of what I believe, it is conservative and based in a biblical traditional worldview. And conservative just in general means that you're slowly progressing. It's progressive is you're changing things very quickly and rapidly. So those are my definitions of conservative and progressive, just to be clear.
How did you have time to do all of that and write 3 novels?
You're just exposing me today. I was homeschooled, guys. So I had a lot of time on my hands. I was done by like 11 a.m. with my schoolwork, and that's what I would do with my free time. I was also in my room a lot because I was always in trouble. So my parents would just give me like a pad of paper and a pencil and lock me in my room and be like, all right, you're in there for the day because you did this thing. And then I would just color or write books because I was bored.
You were in trouble all the time for talking back? Oh my gosh.
Shocking.
Wow.
I know Ephesians 4:29 really well, and also honor your father and your mother. Those were my 2 verses. Did you guys ever do standards where you would like write the same verse over and over and over again for when you were in trouble? If you did, let me know in the comments so I know that I'm not the only one, because it'd be kind of sad if I was. All right. What's your take on vaccines and also the pandemic? So for most of you who know me, I personally am very anti-vaccine. I think that God gave us a perfectly good immune system and that we don't need vaccines. I also think they're kind of satanic. A lot of them are using aborted fetal cells, or they're grown on aborted fetal cell lines. They're also using dog cell lines and animals, and they're mixing it with toxic chemicals. And it just seems like a cauldron of disgusting garbage that I would not want injected into my body. So I'm very anti-vaccine. I don't believe in the science that they work. I also think that the pandemic, as you put it, is just that. I think it was very orchestrated, and that's not to say that it's not a real virus. I do believe it is a real virus, but I believe that the numbers were inflated, that the death numbers were inflated, and that they're using this pandemic to push agenda. And I think that a lot of us saw this coming a long time ago, just following the way they've been pushing a lot of these vaccines, and I think a lot of it has to do with the vaccine and also pushing the 2030 agenda, which you can hear about in my first video. So that's my take on it. If you guys know anything about Event 201, you'll also see that a lot of these events they were talked about 3 months before the pandemic even happened. That's a whole episode. I could do a whole episode on Event 201. If you don't know anything about it, you should look it up because it's kind of crazy. But yeah, that's my take on it. The next question. What is the difference between the border wall and the wall around the Capitol building? There is no difference. I mean, we have walls and structures to keep things that we don't want in out, right? That's why we live in homes. We don't want random people just waltzing into our homes. And it's the same way with the border. We don't want random people who aren't American just waltzing into our country if they have anti-American values or if they're anti-America, and we can't vet all of these people. So that's why we have a system that they go through, and I'm all for legal immigration. So it's just very ironic because the left is so against the border wall, but then the first thing they do when Biden gets in office is put up a massive structure. Like, what is that? What are they so afraid of? Like, this president supposedly got the most votes of any president in history, and yet they put up a massive wall because they're afraid of what? Assassination of the most popular president? Like, it's such a joke. Remember when that...
You know too much. Don't talk too much. They're listening.
I'm gonna get censored. Remember in Portland, or what was it? Portland, Seattle, where they had Chaz or Chop or whatever that was, their autonomous zone, and the first thing they did was put up a wall and have like police with guns. So the left is just hysterical and then hypocritical. It's just sad.
You know, you just named 2 cities, right?
I can't remember. Was it in Portland or Seattle? Wherever they had Chop.
I don't remember. It was one of those. I mean, what's the difference? Right?
Yeah,
what's
same place. I'm not good with geography. What happens if you get the first shot but decide not to get the second one? Is it possible to detox from it? So this person, I'm assuming, is talking about the COVID-19 vaccination because it instructs your DNA. It's not like a typical shot. A lot of doctors are saying it's more like gene therapy than anything. So it's not a typical vaccination. And I don't honestly know if you can detox from this vaccine. There's no really safety studies on this vaccine that we can get that information from. There's no long-term safety studies, at least. And I would kind of venture out to say that it's probably not likely if you're changing the structure of your DNA and your cells. So I am very, very wary of this vaccine, and I wouldn't touch it with a 10-foot pole.
So what you're saying is you're not getting the vaccine?
Hicks no. Second question. What are a few things people can do to protect their medical freedom? A few things you can do. Speak up. Get out there, get on social media, get out in the world, get yourself a Vias for Vaccine sign, and educate people on the facts. Go to your congressman, to schools, businesses, educate people. Put little cards, they're almost like tracts, but for vaccines, and they give vaccine information. Put those in a random aisle at the grocery store. Like, educate as many people as you can. Talk to your state representatives. That's super important. And honestly, just like let them know that you're not going to stand for your medical freedom being violated. The more people who are vocal about it and are actively educating the community, the more we're going to see people getting their freedom. I mean, you have to fight for your freedom. It's just not just going to be handed to you. So we really need to make sure our representatives know that they represent us and not Big Pharma. So that is my advice. Also, just don't give in. Like, so many people are like, oh, I just had to for work, or I just had to for my kid to go to school. Pull your kid out of school and quit your job. I know that sounds like radical, but that's the kind of fighting that it takes to let people know that we're not going to stand for this kind of behavior. If you keep complying, they're just going to say, oh, well, they're complying anyway, so I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing. I mean, you get what you tolerate. I very strongly believe that. What are some good supplements that we should be taking on a regular basis? So supplements are hard because I feel like if you're eating really well, you should be getting all of the nutrients that you need from food. Supplements don't always give you the nutrients because they don't necessarily process the way food does, or your body might not be ready or to accept certain nutrients because you maybe need a detox or you're having issues in a certain organ or whatever. But in general, I think it's very important that you get a lot of vitamin C and a lot of vitamin D3 in your diet. And if you have MTHFR and you can't methylate properly and you can't detox heavy metals properly, I think it's important that you get vitamin B12 and a natural folate. I think it's also important to get a probiotic and a prebiotic. So those are some kind of basics. Zinc is another good one to have on hand. Brian's the supplement king. He had so many supplements when I met him. It was insane. Like bags, like trash bags full of supplements. So what can you tell me and our audience, Brian, about your supplement usage in the past and any advice?
I was a junkie, and I had a lot of different supplements that I don't know if they worked or anything. So I don't currently take anything, and yeah, also I'm not a doctor, so I can't recommend anything.
Do you think it's dangerous for people who get too into supplements and like buy so many like you did? Like, do you regret buying all those supplements that you never used?
I was going through some major health stuff, and I was kind of just like trying to support my body as much as I could because I was like physically feeling really horrible. So I just wanted my body to have everything it needed to operate as good as it could at the time. But once I started feeling a lot better, then I kind of just stopped taking everything and just tried to eat healthy until I met you.
So you don't think that they work at all? Like they did nothing?
I can't say that. I have no idea.
Okay.
But I took a ton and I was feeling better. And once I got better, then I stopped taking them.
You just have to be careful of people who are too eager to sell you on supplements as your like one solution.
Yeah, for sure. There's definitely a huge market for supplements, and I don't think probably 80% of them do anything.
Yep. I don't know. I've been taking some supplements recently. I've been taking organ supplement, so it's like animal organs. I can't really tell if it's doing anything. I've been feeling pretty good, but I've also been eating really clean, so it's hard to tell.
Yeah, organs are huge, and you should just eat organs if you can stomach it. Just blend up a bunch of organs from like a cow.
From animals, guys.
And just like put it, I don't know, like smoothie style. But most people can't do that.
Organ smoothie. Doesn't that sound delicious?
Well, most people don't want to do that. And so
Why wouldn't they want to do that? That sounds so good.
Well, remember we used to feed the dog a bunch of organs?
Yeah, he used to feed our pit bull raw meat only, and he'd have like chicken feet and liver. And by the way, I was in our first trimester, and he was cutting up, meal prepping organ meat on the counter. It was disgusting.
Did you live though?
Barely.
Did you live?
Might have thrown up.
Yeah. So anyways, taking organ supplements, I know that works because I felt major boosts after when I was feeling really bad. I would take like bovine adrenal glands and stuff and get a big boost of energy. So
that's why I'm so tired. I didn't take my organs today.
Hey, I mean, your body, that's another bad thing about some of these supplements is that your body gets used to it, and then it's like coffee where you end up needing that.
Yeah, certain supplements like melatonin and vitamin D3, you can't make your own vitamins or melatonin when you're taking them all the time because it starts becoming reliant on the supplement. So you just got to be careful too. And also I know that calcium can like cancel out like vitamin C, I believe it is. So be careful of that too, like not taking them too close together. You just kind of have to know what you're doing before you just jump into it and think that it's going to fix all your issues, because that's not always the case.
You know what's super interesting about vitamins and about vitamin C in particular, like we're like God's design on the body, we're the only, like, you know, they call us mammals. Obviously we're not, like, you know, we're humans, but like as far as how our bodies work, they compare it to mammals. And we're the only body type like that doesn't create its own vitamin C. So there's like mammals that when they get stressed or they're going through something like, you know, crazy, their body will produce its own vitamin C.
Which is great for like your health. If you're having a cold or anything, they tell you to dose up on vitamin C.
Yeah, and I think it's because God designed us to be the ones that actually eat fruit and eat things that have the vitamin C in it already. And a lot of these animals, they're just herbivores or whatever. Like they just eat, grass and wheat and all that, or whatever's on the ground.
That's funny you mentioned that, because that brings us to our next questions about what about the clouds and chemtrails? We always talk about how our fruit and vegetables aren't even like full of the nutrients that they originally once had because of chemtrails and the fact that we're spraying all this stuff onto our food and our soil is so toxic. I do personally believe in chemtrails from what I know. I haven't done a ton of research on the topic. I used to be like, I don't really buy it. But then the more I heard from people, and I do think that they are spraying something. And
you're definitely getting banned after this episode.
I mean, I think there's some credible information out there that's been released recently talking about the fact that they're admitting that what they're spraying has different metals and toxic stuff in it. I'd have to dig deeper into that topic or bring on somebody onto the show that's more versed in chemtrails, but I do personally believe that they are doing something kind of shady. Is it to poison all of us and kill us all? I don't know. Is it to make us sick? I don't know. I don't know why they're doing it exactly, and I don't want to, get into the conspiracy theory realm. Without having too much information, because again, I only want to bring out facts and say facts. So in my opinion, they do. I don't know.
I don't think they need to. I don't know if chemtrails are a thing. I mean, I know jets and stuff in the sky, condensation, this and that. I don't know. But
those streaks in the sky don't look natural.
Well, I mean, it's not natural. It's from jets.
Yeah.
Right?
So it's like, what is it?
So whether it's jets engines putting it out there, or whether it's something that they're spraying out of a jet, whatever. The point is, I don't think they need to. I mean, there's already so much pollution everywhere in the oceans and the lakes, and then in food, because they use herbicide and all these different things to grow plants, and it's all like, oh, FDA approved, like that's how we're growing our stuff, and I don't even think and then on top of all the other toxins that we come across every day, and just the water that we drink, it's just, why would they also need to put something in the sky? Because if that's true, right, the conspiracy is true, then the elites and like the people that have all the money would never be outside because they would know about it. So I don't know if
they just have greenhouses.
But I do know that Bill Gates is openly planning to like put a layer, right,
of dust around the earth to block the sun's rays.
So whatever
to
that
save
is,
us from global warming.
That doesn't sound natural.
This is true, guys. This is real. Look this up. Bill Gates is planning to put dust in the universe to block the sun. Block the sun, guys. Like, is he a Simpson villain? Like, this is madness, guys. So fact check me on that, because it's crazy that we live in a world where this is actually happening. Like, who elected Bill Gates as king of the universe? That's who I want to know. That guy is a creep.
Yeah. What's interesting is like he stepped down from the board of Microsoft right before the pandemic, or like right when it was happening. And it's like, all of a sudden he was involved in like, trying to push for vaccines and doing all that stuff. But
Event 201 was put on by Bill Gates.
Yeah, and it's like, dude, you're a computer nerd. What are you talking about? Okay, so you stepped down from Microsoft because you're so passionate about this other stuff. But why do you need to step down from Microsoft? Like, why can't you be on the board and do all these other things that you're talking about? It's really weird, fishy.
Things I trust more than Bill Gates. Casey Anthony babysitting my child. A drink from Bill Cosby. What else do I trust? Indian food.
Whoa!
There's a lot of things I trust
Indian
before
food.
Bill Gates. Okay, next question. If you could implement 3 effective changes to the public education system, what would they be and why? Okay, personally, I know this is kind of an extreme response, but I'm an extreme person. I'm not for the education system or public education system. I believe that parents should be homeschooling their children. I personally think that we should never trust the government to do the right thing. And because of that, I want to see way more parents homeschooling their children. If it's possible, if it's an option for you, I want to see them homeschooling their kids, because it's so vital that they grow up and they hear truth. And the government funded school systems are pushing agendas onto children more than they're pushing education. I mean, in a perfect world, what would I implement? I would implement the Bible. I would implement thinking critically for yourself. Like, I would implement not like no politics. Like, you shouldn't even know what your teacher is. I don't know if that's like too abstract of a thing to implement, but yeah, I really don't find the public school system to be somewhere where parents should trust to send their kids to and expect their kids to come out with really good foundations in terms of critical thinking skills and conservative values. I mean, it's just, it is what it is. And I mean, it depending on where you live, it might be different, but they're only getting worse and worse, and they're pushing their ideologies onto our children. And I think this is where we can win in the culture battle and the culture war is with our children. We need to raise up children with conservative Christian values, and that foundation starts in the home. And you can do that in the public school system. Like, you can still give them that foundation while they go to school, but it's a lot more difficult, and they're going to have a lot more pressure from their peers and from teachers. So I think that's important. And if you're going to make changes, like I said, the Bible needs to be the foundation in these schools. So yeah, I hope that kind of answers your question. The next question is, what are your thoughts on the controversy surrounding the ethnic background of Kamala Harris? How do you think identity politics impacted this election? So this is a good question. So Kamala Harris is Jamaican and Indian, and a while ago she was running on the basis of her Indian heritage, and that was kind of very much pushing that as a way of getting votes. And then now that it's all BLM and Black Lives Matter, and now she's pushing her Black heritage. So it's just kind of funny how with identity politics, they use whatever heritage works in their favor to kind of lift them up. And that's the basis of which they want people to vote, not on their character or their policies or what they've done. It's usually all about, well, I'm a woman, and it'd be so historical if there was a woman who was Black and this and blah, blah, blah in this role. And that's just the sad situation. I don't think identity politics help anybody. They just hurt people. They are divisive. I think if you have good policies, they should affect all people equally, and they'll be beneficial for everyone, regardless of your race. So I think identity politics has absolutely impacted the election, because they've labeled Trump as a racist. And as soon as you do that, and as soon as you make it all about race, then all of a sudden you're a racist if you vote for Trump, or you're a white supremacist, or an Uncle Tom, or a race traitor, or whatever, the many things I have been called. So I think that is a huge way, because you're socially pressured into voting for Biden, or else you're a white supremacist. So yeah, that's what I would say on that question. Next question. Where do you stand on the latest issues concerning transgenders? Would you consider a person who is transgender to be someone who is living with mental illness? So I base my views off of the Bible, and this may trigger some people here, but I'm going to say it. This is my opinion, and I'm allowed to have it because we live in America. There are two genders, boy, girl. So if you are transgender, I'm not necessarily going to label you with a mental health issue, but you have a sin issue. We're all born into sin, and sin makes us stupid. Sin creates issues. Sin makes us live in our flesh and have sinful, perverse desires. One of these desires could be to be the opposite sex that we think we are. There's a lot of confusion. I would say that most of it probably is some sort of mental health illness, but even then, it's hard to find the line between mental illness and also just sinful behavior of man. So again, I know this might trigger people, but yeah, I mean, if somebody thought they were a giraffe, then I would venture out to say that they probably are mentally unstable at the very least. Just because something is socially acceptable doesn't make it okay. It's I understand that there's intersex people, but even then they have chromosomes. Your gender is not something that can be changed. It's not a construct. It's not an abstract thing. I am a woman. I can have babies. I have periods. Men do not have those things. Men are built differently. So when you see men, for instance, in women's sports competing against women, it's absolutely asinine to me. And I just think that it creates so many issues. It makes a caricature out of womanhood when you just think you can have surgery, get some boobs, and then call yourself a woman. Like, you didn't have periods. You can't have babies. You don't get to just take on womanhood because you think you have a female brain, whatever the heck a female brain is, you know? And that's the funny thing, is they say there's no gender, that it's all a construct, but then they say there's also male and female. Like, you can be a man, or a man who thinks he's a woman, and vice versa. It just doesn't make any sense. So that's what I think about that. Sorry if I lost some followers. It's cool. That's kind of what the show's about.
The show's about losing followers?
It's about getting censored.
Oh, right.
I'm trying so hard to get censored. No, it's just, unfortunately, we live in a culture of cancelness, and I'm sure that some of you will cancel me for being a bigot or whatever, because, I believe in science. So I know of some homeschooled, now adult people who have walked away from their faith, or at least have some very different non-biblical views on some issues from their parents. I also know of public school people who grew up with Christian parents and have maintained a strong faith and biblical worldview. Do you think these cases are just outliers? Do you think their parents of these now adult children did differently than other parents who chose the same schooling method? So first off, great question. You cannot decide or dictate if your child is going to be a believer or not. We are all elected before God, the people who are going to be saved. So there's literally nothing you can do to save your child if they're not elect. Even if you are the best parent on the planet and you have the best teaching and the best theology and you do everything right, your child could still walk away and not be a Christian and not have faith. And you can do everything wrong and your child could still become a Christian. So it's not really based on the parents. I do think that there is a pattern I have noticed in the homeschool community and Christian communities where parents are extremely strict with their children, and their children are so confined to these bubbles that as soon as they turn 18, they want to do the exact opposite of what their parents did. So I do think that does impact just personality in terms of that rebellious nature that some kids end up with when they are 18 and they get their nose ring and their tattoo and go off to become a drunk. You see that a lot in conservative households where you can't watch anything, you can't do anything, you can't hang out with friends, and you have all of these restrictions. And I don't think those legalistic guidelines are biblical. I don't think we should be that way as parents. But at the same time, it's not going to impact whether your kid is a Christian or not a Christian. There's nothing you can do to impact that. They either will be or they won't be. You can preach the gospel. You have a duty to preach the gospel to your children and to raise them in the Lord, but only God can ultimately save them. So those views, those biblical views that people have, or their faith or whatever, that's just going to be very situational and dependent on the situation and whether they're elect. And yeah, I mean, like I said, don't be too strict with your children, because they might have a phase when they are able to have some freedom where they take a little too much liberty with it. So yeah, I hope that wasn't too rambly. How to track bills is what I want to know. I just messaged my whole school board today. So this is a good question. I don't actually have a way of doing this. I just kind of follow certain groups, like medical freedom groups on Facebook. I follow certain gun rights activists, and they kind of let me know of certain bills, or I'll get on email newsletters of people who are very active politically, and they'll send me bills. So that's the way I kind of do it. I don't know if anybody else has any suggestions on this. If so, leave it in the comments for this lady who would like to know. The next question: what can we do to prepare ourselves for New World Order, and how can we fight it? Oh, man. So, okay. I believe in the rapture. So I believe that Christians will be raptured before we have the Antichrist and the mark of the beast and all of that stuff. Will there be New World Order before then? I don't know. I don't think there's anything we can do to stop New World Order from happening. I think it's inevitable. The Bible talks about it. We can definitely prepare ourselves spiritually by being in the Word and making sure we're right with God. But I don't know if there's too much we can do to stop the global agenda. We can do things on our own turf. Like we can really fight bills in our own counties and talk to our city council members and our representatives in our areas and really make a difference in our areas. And I think that's what we should be doing. We should be making a difference in our areas where we live, making sure that we're keeping our little towns as free as possible. But you can't really change the world. I mean, it is what it is. God is in control. We can only do what we can do, and some things are inevitable and some things we have responsibility to do. So I would just say prepare yourself spiritually. I wouldn't necessarily go all doomsday prepper on you. But if you were to go doomsday prepper, greenhouse. Greenhouse and a lot of land. That's what I would suggest. Next question. What's your outlook on fatherless households in the African American community? That's a loaded one. So a lot of fathers in the African American community, it's a very complicated history because, for one, we have a lot of people who were put in prison by Biden and Kamala who signed bills that had the war on drugs, and they put all these men in prison for drugs and different things that these guys shouldn't have necessarily gone to prison for. So we have that for one. For two, we have kind of the government has incentivized Black fathers to leave the homes because they've incentivized the women to essentially marry the government. So they wouldn't give women, government money to raise the children if they stayed with the father. So this incentivized women to not be with their baby daddies. And so you see a lot of African American families that don't have a father in the home. And then it becomes kind of a generational thing, just based off of lack of accountability and responsibility, and also culture, kind of nature and nurture type thing. So I think it is a problem in the Black community, and we as Black people need to take responsibility for that ourselves. And it's just sad because I think that's one of the biggest contributors to why it's so difficult for Black Americans to get ahead, because they don't have two parents in the household raising their children. So their children try and go out and find family and in areas where they shouldn't, like gangs and stuff. And it's not just African American boys, it's a lot of different boys. I mean, Brian can speak to this. He didn't have a father growing up, and I don't know, you want to talk about how that's affected you at all?
Yeah, I mean, I know that has a major role on, I mean, any like boys or girls growing up. We all need to have an example of a father in our home, especially if you're planning on having kids yourself. Mm-hmm. So I didn't have that, but I did have, like, my oldest brother. He was my father figure that I had. He was a pretty big gap of, I forget the age gap, but I'm the youngest, he's the oldest. So. But yeah, I think that there's definitely an advantage to people that have, even if it's not a great relationship, like, even if like it's not the best father figure, mm-hmm. I think that somebody there is better than nothing. Somebody there to discipline, somebody there to give mm-hmm. advice, somebody there to just come home and get a big hug from. Like, there's a sense of security, I think, having that father mm-hmm. in the home versus no father. So
right,
yeah, it's big.
Yeah, that's good. This next question: how can the CDC pass laws that are so readily enforced on a federal level? Because they're all in bed with the same people. It's the thing about the government. They're all connected. It's just one big spider web of corruption.
Yeah. It's a show and we have front row tickets.
Yep. It's a stage. The world is a stage. Why are children being forced to wear a mask? It makes them a bigger target for human trafficking by simply putting a piece of duct tape on under their mask. Why are children being forced to wear a mask while exercising? You know why? Because their parents are allowing them to be. There is no way on this earth that I'm going to let Judah put a mask on ever. He's never going to wear a mask. And again,
what about Halloween?
Okay. On Halloween, you can wear a mask, but it can't be a medical mask.
I want to be a COVIDiot for Halloween.
I mean, again, you get what you allow. When you allow stupidity and you tolerate stupidity, that's what you're going to get. So as long as you keep sending your kid to school with a mask on, as long as you keep taking them places into stores with a mask on, and you're not fighting for them, then they're going to be forced to do these ridiculous, non-scientific things. So it really comes down to the parents allowing it to happen for their children. And obviously you can't like control your older children, but I'm talking about little kids. Like, come on, guys, you know better. You gotta fight. And that's the thing. People just want their freedoms to come back to them. They will never come back to you. You will never get your freedom back unless you fight for it. That is an absolute fact. So don't wait. I know it's not easy to be confrontational, but you have to be if you want things to ever go back to normal, because they don't care about your child's mental health at all. They do not care. So if you care, then you need to stand up for your kid. Let's see. Do liberals recognize God? I don't necessarily understand this question. Do you understand this question? Do liberals recognize God? Like, can you be I'm sure there's liberals who believe in a God, or maybe even the God of the Bible, and they're just misled. But a lot of liberal ideology is anti-God. I don't know if that helps answer your question a little bit. Mask exemptions, how to legally obtain it for you and for your children. So I don't know if there's doctors just handing out mask exemptions. Maybe there's a crunchy doctor out there that is, but honestly, I don't think you should need to have one. I think that I go into a store all the time and I say medical exemption. They don't say anything to me. I mean, you don't need an actual physical copy of medical exemption. And if they tell you do, they're full of it, is all I got to say. So again, just say no. I mean, here's kind of how my rule goes when I go into a store. I walk in without one and I don't say anything. If no one says anything to me, I don't put a mask on. If someone says something to me, I say I have a medical exemption. If they let me in, I continue to shop. If they say, no, you need to put on a mask, we don't accept exemptions, then I decide if it's worth shopping in their store. But usually I'll just say, screw you guys, I'm going to go somewhere where they respect medical exemptions. And that's kind of how I do it. So it's always a last resort. I will always make me put it on if I'm going to put it on at all. And again, don't tolerate what you don't want. So if you have to order online, I ordered contacts online because I didn't want to have to go sit at an eye doctor with a mask on. And was it annoying? Sure. But it is what it is. That's what I'm not going to tolerate terrible behavior. They're not going to get my money. Next question. Why are those that go directly to the government, who is creating all the issues, deemed domestic terrorists, but those who target innocent businesses who have nothing to do with this by looting and rioting, hailed as heroes by mainstream media? Is the government supposed to be some untouchable force American citizens are supposed to be afraid of? No. The government you're never supposed to be afraid of your government. If you're afraid of your government, you have tyrants. It's that simple. We're deemed as terrorists because the mainstream media is a bunch of propaganda and just a wing of the Democratic Party. And also they're a bunch of hypocrites. So hope that answered that question. What's up with the MyPillow guy? I haven't had the time to research what all the buzz is around this guy. So the MyPillow guy, the CEO of MyPillow, went on Newsmax and they were asking him about censorship because his profile was taken off of Facebook, I believe, or Twitter. I think it was Twitter. And he was saying that it was taken off because he was talking about election fraud. And as he was saying this, the anchor of Newsmax was interrupting him, telling him like, "Hey, stop."
Well, here, let's play it. Hold on, let's play it.
Okay.
What happened with your Twitter account and the company page? Well, first mine was taken down because we have all the election fraud with these Dominion machines. We have 100% proof. And then when they took it down about 3 weeks ago, and then when I put it back up, my personal, it was a
Mike, thank you very much. Mike, you're talking about machines that we at Newsmax have not been able to verify any of those kinds of allegations. We just want to let people know that there's nothing substantive that we've seen. And let me read you something there. While there were some clear evidence of some cases of vote fraud and election irregularities, the election results in every state were certified, and Newsmax accepts the results as legal and final. The courts have also supported that view. So we wanted to talk to you about canceling culture, if you will. We don't want to relitigate the allegations that you're making, Mike, because we understand where you are. So let me ask you this. Do you think that this should be temporary? Because it appears to be permanent. Could you make an argument that it is temporary?
What?
Could you make an argument that this could be a temporary banning rather than permanent?
No, I want it to be a permanent because you know what? They did this because I'm revealing all the evidence on Friday of all the election fraud with these machines. So I'm sorry if you think it's not
Mike,
it's real.
Can I ask our producers, can we get out of here, please? I don't want to have to keep going over this.
Actually,
we at Newsmax have not been able to verify any of those allegations that you're...
Mike, hold on a second. Everybody hold on a second. Mike, hold on 1 second. Let's talk a little bit about just what is happening overall.
Okay, so that's the video. It's like a comedy sketch, honestly. It's really funny. But apparently after this guy walked off, there was a lot of buzz around this dude, and now people are boycotting My Pillow, and some people are also buying a ton of their stuff. So apparently he's actually doing really well. But that's what the controversy was. Pretty entertaining stuff, if you ask me. It's just the crazy world of cancel culture that we live in. And it's just funny to watch this news guy completely interrupt his guest. It's just like, if you don't say exactly what we want you to say, you're not allowed to say it. And I guess he apologized after this. So yeah, that's what that is all about. Let's see. Another question. Were you always outspoken about what you believe? Did you always have these beliefs? So I kind of answered this a little bit earlier. I've always been outspoken. I didn't always have these specific beliefs. I never really cared about vaccines until I would say 2 years ago. I, again, was for BLM a year ago, so that's changed. Certain beliefs has changed, and I think it's healthy to have beliefs that do change over time in certain areas, because you don't want to live in an echo chamber, and you also want to see that you're growing. So I think that's good. But yeah, I've always been super outspoken about everything. It's just kind of my personality. And then the last question before we end our show is, what is my favorite shoe line? So it's super deep, as you can tell. I would have to say, oh man, okay, it's a tie between Converse and Cole Haan, which is like, they make kind of basic dress shoes, and I really like the way they fit. So yeah, those would be my two go-tos. I hope this was fun for you guys. This was fun for me. I love answering your guys' questions. Let me know if you want to do something like this again in the future. We have so many guests coming onto the show that I'm super excited about. Really awesome people with really powerful testimonies, and they're doing big things out there. But we really need your support, because we want to make this show as awesome as possible, and we want to continue to grow. So if you feel led, please donate to my Patreon or Venmo. And for the rest of you, I will see you next week.